All right, let's do this thing. Welcome to another edition of Recher Reacts. I am Jay Recher, your host. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend, whether you're here in the Tampa Bay area or abroad. What a wild weekend on the gridiron. We'll get into all of the NFL action here momentarily, including that big win for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But first, make sure you follow me on all social media platforms at Jay Recher. I signed up for every social media account as soon as soon as it came out. I signed up for it. I didn't want anybody else to have at J Retcher. You see so many different people with underscores or numbers attached to their names. I just wanted to make sure, no matter what, that I was J Retcher. And I signed up for Twitter like 2 years before I ever used it. So if another social media platform comes out, you could bet your sweet ass that I'm gonna sign up for it at the very least. You just never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to take off now in this crazy world that we live in. Yeah, so follow me Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. I am everywhere posting a ton of content throughout the year, especially on a day like today. You really want to follow me. Buccaneers win. I'm at Raymond James Stadium. I'm at Ray J. I'm at these USF games, Rowdies games, Bucks games. It doesn't matter. Rays. If something's happened in the Tampa Bay area, there's pretty good chance that I am there. Make sure you head on over to my YouTube page as well. Like and subscribe. Every like and subscription certainly does help. Today on the program, you can see the scroll on the bottom there. We're going to discuss the key components from the Buccaneers win over the Philadelphia Eagles. A ton of green at Raymond James Stadium. Hey, that is the way it goes. But the Buccaneers come away with the win. They're 3-1 on the season. We'll talk about the key components for Tampa Bay's victory. Also, why Baker Mayfield and Tom Brady have a point. Now, there's been a little, public squabble, for lack of a better term. It doesn't seem like it's anything that serious, but there were some comments made. And if you haven't heard of the comments from Baker Mayfield or Tom Brady, I'll read them to you and also tell you why it's really not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. And it's really not surprising that each of these guys would say the things that they did. Now, I would love to hear from you throughout this entire program. So feel free, questions, comments, concerns, leave them there at the bottom of the screen, whether you're watching on Twitter, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. I want to hear from you. Very interactive here on Retro Reacts. What was your favorite part of the Buccaneers win over the Philadelphia Eagles today? I'm also going to give you my top 5 quarterback performances from NFL Sunday. Some veterans, some young guys, but man, there's just nothing like great quarterback play. We've seen it on Friday night in the college ranks. We saw it on Saturday to see what Carson Beck and Jalen Milroe were able to do in that game between Georgia and Alabama. And then, of course, we see it today, NFL Sunday. My top 5 quarterback performances, I will give you those. And then finally, I think it's just me a little bit just kind of blowing off steam. Uh, why Erik Ten Hag's days are numbered with Manchester United. Just an absolutely putrid performance today as they lose 3-0 to Tottenham at home. It was an 11:30 start here on the East. Ooh, excuse me, here in the U.S. on the East Coast, and I planned my whole day to make sure that I got to Raymond James Stadium with plenty of time. I could put my stuff down. I could watch the first half of the game. I did a radio hit with our friends up at WIP in Philadelphia. And then I had plenty of time to watch the second half of the game. But what happened there at Old Trafford was despicable, disgusting, and awful. So the Glazers are happy on this side of the pond because the Buccaneers are 3-1, but they cannot like what they see from their soccer team there in Manchester, England. It just keeps on getting worse, and it seems like they're getting farther and farther and farther and farther away from that elite status that we all I don't want to say all, like everybody, all the United fans, just clamor for them to return to that glory. We just haven't seen it, and I don't know if it's going to happen very soon. Couple of things too. When you're following me on all social media platforms, there's certain videos that really stick out, and a couple of them really stand out today. And I want to get right into it today. One of the big key components for the Buccaneers win today, and that was Levante David. He was outstanding, outstanding Levante David leads the team with 8 total tackles, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, pass breakup, QB hit. He forced the fumble. He was incredible. Levante David I would say turning back the clock, like he doesn't do this every week, but he is just one of the best Buccaneers that we have ever seen, easily. And I wanted to ask a bunch of the players after the game today about his historic game today, where he picked up tackle number 1,500. Try to wrap your head around that. 1,500 tackles. And he joins the great Derek Brooks as the only 2 players to be able to achieve that feat. It's amazing. Incredible. Couldn't happen to a better guy. But I wanted to ask guys like Mike Evans, Yaya Diaby. Who else did I ask? Logan Hall, and who was the last person? Mike Evans, Yaya Diaby, Logan Hall, and why can't I think of it? Oh my god, I'm the one that did the video. Vita Vea. Vita Vea. There you go. So those 4 guys, Mike Evans, Yaya Diaby, Logan Hall, and Vita Vea. I wanted to ask them what they thought of Levante David, and it was just so cool to hear them speak about him with such reverence. He's a very quiet, mild mannered guy, but he's a true professional. And unfortunately, because of the lack of Pro Bowls and All Pros, he probably won't be in the Hall of Fame. But he's a surefire Buccaneer Ring of Honor guy. Uh, he could be one of those candidates that gets in, years down the road by the Veterans Committee, because maybe people will look back on his career more fondly when they take a deeper dive into the tackles and the games played and the forced fumbles and the interceptions, and how maybe when guys like Bobby Wagner go in, right? Because he'll probably go in when his career is all said and done. And then you start comparing the numbers to a guy like Bobby Wagner, that may help him in the long run. But you look at Levante today and the way that he was so gracious with the media, multiple phone calls uh, for, I think it was ESPN radio, NFL Network radio. He went up to the podium. He was just so gracious with his time. And again, he's not like the most outspoken guy, he keeps to himself. Um, but he is one of the greatest Buccaneers of all time, Super Bowl champion. And it was really cool to see him get that love today. He wasn't the only one that made history today. Mike Evans becomes the guy with the most points in Buccaneers history, passing the great Martin Gramatica, who's going to join our guy Tom Krasnicki tomorrow on WDAE at 4 o'clock. Mike Evans, another guy, stands up there after a win, after a loss. It doesn't matter. He's accountable. The things that he had to say about Levante David. I also just posted a video or posted a video of Graham Barton and Kate Otten speaking about Mike Evans and how he's not just a great player, he's a great human being, and the way that he treats his teammates. Another, guy that's going to be a Ring of Honor member for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer in Canton, and he contributed in a big way in the game today too. So, uh, 8 catches on 14 targets, 94 yards, and a touchdown. A great job by Liam Cohen and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coaching staff to get him involved early and often. I thought that set the tone for the entire game. And then Baker was able to spread the ball around. 2 Chris Godwin, 6 for 69. Kate Otten had 6 catches. Sterling Shepard, great to see him contribute. 3 grabs there. Rashad caught a couple out of the backfield before this gentleman left due to a concussion. Hopefully he's better sooner rather than later. Trey Palmer had 3 catches, including a touchdown grab. So you love to see Liam Cohen take what happened last week against the Denver Broncos and go, wow, that was ugly. Let's adjust the way we do things here and try to feed Mike early and then bounce off of that. And that's exactly what we saw. The running game was pretty good. Bucky Irvin, Rashad White with pretty much identical lines, 10 carries for 49 yards. Bucky was able to get into the end zone. Baker punched one in as well from a couple yards out. The Buccaneers ran the ball 25 times for 111 yards, 4.4 yards per carry. You'll love to see the balance. 25 runs, 30 passes in the air. That is how you win in the National Football League. I was really happy with the Bucs offensive performance today. Baker Mayfield, 30 of 47, 347 yards and 2 touchdowns. Took a couple of sacks, but he was daring when he needed to be. He took care of the football at other times. Really loved what you saw from number 6. Defensively, I mentioned Levante David, but Jordan Whitehead was flying around. Jamel Dean had a couple of pass breakups. But the guy whose return really paid dividends for Tampa Bay, that was Vita Vea. Him back in that lineup made a world of difference. He is such a difference maker. When he is in there, he takes up multiple blockers, so much attention, and he gives the guys on the outside the ability to get off and do their thing. That's why you saw Levante with a couple of sacks. The Bucks had 6 sacks today. One for Nelson, one for Vita himself, where he just crunched Jalen Hurts. Logan Hall, who I think was one of the more underrated players of the day. Logan Hall had a pass. He tipped down a pass. He had a couple of big tackles, picked up a sack. Yaya Diaby, great to see him to get on the board as well. Chris Braswell, I thought had some good moves where he was chasing around Jalen Hurts. A solid performance all the way around from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That is what you need to see from this club. They're 3-1. They're going into a tough matchup Thursday night against the Atlanta Falcons, who won in dramatic fashion on a big time field goal from Younghoe Koo to bring them up to 2-2 on the season. They've played some nail biters so far. I mean, you got to think about it. They're 2 plays away from being 0-4. It's pretty crazy. For all the talk in the offseason about the Atlanta Falcons being the favorites in the NFC South. Okay. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have an opportunity to learn from what happened last week against Denver, not get too high, and to really go out there on Thursday night with something to prove. They're 3-1. They're sitting alone at the top of the NFC South. And the great thing about today's performance against the Philadelphia Eagles is that it was a team performance. Everybody contributed to this win. I thought they played a solid game. Got a little kind of iffy there, in the third quarter, and then Philadelphia was able to. But pushbacks happen. It happens. You're never going to dominate in the National Football League for all 4 quarters. You're going to get some pushback. Some of the things happen. So I like it. I was very happy with what I saw with the Buccaneers today, and I think it's only going to get better as the season goes on. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. I am everywhere. So hopefully you can join me wherever I am at. And don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. If you've never checked out my YouTube page, head on over there, not right now, but after I'm done, and go check out all the videos, all the shorts. You can, man, it's getting up into the hundreds now, and it's going to continue to populate as the year goes by. I figure by the end of the year, I'll probably have somewhere near 500 videos, which is going to be pretty cool. And just those numbers are going to keep on climbing. We got a lot of great things in store for you here on my YouTube channel. Recher Reacts, the J Recher podcast, a couple other things we have in store for you. So you definitely want to follow, like, and subscribe. Hit that notifications bell so whenever we go live, you get notified. All right. Another thing I want to mention, or I want to talk about, is the whole back and forth with Baker Mayfield and Tom Brady. And if you didn't hear anything about this, Baker Mayfield went on Corey Kluber's podcast. Remember Corey Kluber, former right-hander in the major leagues. He pitched for the Tampa Bay Rays. And during an appearance on Casa de Club, Baker Mayfield had this to say about Tom Brady. I quote, "The building was a little bit different with Tom in there. Obviously, playing-wise, Tom is different. He had everybody dialed in, high-strung environment, so I think everybody was pretty stressed out. They wanted me to come in, be myself, bring the joy back to football for guys who weren't having as much fun." So today on the broadcast, because Tom Brady was on the call with Kevin Burkhardt for Fox, Tom Brady responded, "I thought stressful was not having Super Bowl rings, so there was a mindset of a champion that I took to work every day. This wasn't daycare. If I wanted to have fun, I would have went to Disneyland with my kids." Interesting. Now a that was something that was all over social media in the beginning of the game. People were spending a lot more time focused on those comments rather than what was going on in the football field, and I get it. I get it. Um, but let me tell you this: Baker Mayfield and Tom Brady both have a point here. Neither of them are wrong. Um, we know Tom was obsessive when it came to winning. Everything had to be perfect. That's how you win as many Super Bowls as he did. I mean, we've heard this story before too. Remember Michael Jordan in The Last Dance? Remember all of those stories we've heard about Kobe Bryant over the years? I mean, it's the same thing. But the thing about that intensity and obsession, the thing about that, eh, excuse me, but the thing about that intensity and obsession is that eventually it takes a toll. I mean, just look at Bill Belichick up there in New England. And I know you'll probably say, well, Tom was only here in Tampa Bay for 3 years. So, I mean, that shouldn't have worn on too much. But, and trust me, I get that. But for the Bucks, it was a crash course. There was no gradually learning how to win with Tom. They had to get on board or get the hell off the ship. Add in the COVID situation and no off season. It was a lot to handle. I mean, think about it. Hence why a guy like Baker seems like a breath of fresh air to the team. He inherits this club with a bunch of winners and championship pedigrees, but he kind of adds that different element, doesn't he? A guy with a chip on his shoulder, just like Tom, but different with the way that he goes about his business. I mean, can that lead a team to a Super Bowl? I mean, that remains to be seen. But just because it's different, I mean, it doesn't mean it's wrong. I mean, I can't wait to see how this plays out, but neither one of these guys are wrong. Baker, this is how we know. Like this is how Baker rolls. Baker comes in here, he plays like his hair is on fire. He's dapping everybody up. He's taking his offensive lineman out. You know, he's hanging out with Tristan Wirfs. That's what he does. He's a different guy than Tom Brady. For Tom to be that successful, and again, we've seen it in other sports too, you have to be almost OCD with every little detail. You can't leave any stone unturned. And while that does allow you, or it does give you the opportunity to achieve, the highest of the heights, right? To reach the top of the mountain more than anybody else, it gets old, right? And it kind of wears on people. I mean, Tom said it himself. Like Tampa, Tom was a different guy when he came down here. Let's not forget that. But there was still that same Tom that was up in New England, very, meticulous with every little detail. And for a team that doesn't know how to win, they needed that. They needed Tom Brady to be like that. But they got all of that quickly. And I'm sure that it was a lot to handle. So now when you have Baker in here and he's got that little bit more of a frat boy type attitude, still got the chip on his shoulder, but I think, it was a welcome breath of fresh air. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that nobody's grateful for what Tom did. It just means that it's different. Different's not always a bad thing. Different's not always a good thing either. And that's why we still aren't 100% sure if Baker can be the guy to lead the Buccaneers to the Super Bowl. But man, it is going to be fun to take this ride with him and the Buccaneers, isn't it? So good stuff there from Baker and Brady. I think it's a pretty balanced approach on both sides. Let's take a look at my top 5 quarterback performances for the weekend or just NFL Sunday. We won't go back to Thursday because no, neither Dak Prescott or Daniel Jones belong in this list. But my top 5 quarterback performances, number one's got to be Baker Mayfield. 30 of 47, 347 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mentioned the 4 carries, 10 yards, a touchdown on the ground. Just a solid performance all the way around from Baker. You got to really enjoy the way he played quarterback today, especially after what he did against the Denver Broncos, where it didn't even look like him. So he bounced back in a big way. Great to see there. Next up, you got to give some love to Lamar Jackson, what he was able to do, leading the Ravens to a 35-10 win over the Buffalo Bills. 13 of 18, 156 yards, a couple of touchdowns in the air, but the running ability, 6 carries for 54 yards. The way he was able to sell some of those RPOs with Derrick Henry, he had 199 yards himself. But this Baltimore team, throw out the records. I know they're 2-2. But it seems like when they're firing on all cylinders, that is going to be an awfully tough team to beat. What a perfect marriage having Derrick Henry, the king, go into Baltimore. Oh, man. Good luck tackling that guy in January. Next up, I got to go to Minnesota with the Vikings. They were in Green Bay. They go into Lambeau. They beat the Packers 31-29. They stave off the pack. Green Bay outscored Minnesota 22-3 in the fourth quarter. What a great comeback from Jordan Love in his first game back from injury. He threw for 389 yards, but he threw 3 picks. But I got to give it to Sam Darnold. 20 of 28, 275, 3 touchdowns. Everybody thought, not everybody, but there was a good chunk of people that thought Sam Darnold was going to come crashing down to earth. That didn't happen. He's continuously playing at a high level, and Minnesota is 4-0. Get a load of the Vikings. Houston wins 24-20 over the Jacksonville Jaguars. CJ Stroud's another guy that I thought had a strong performance today. 27 of 40, 345 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. You got to love when your quarterback takes care of the football and he spreads it around. 12 throws to Nico Collins for a $151. Nico's really stepped into being that number one receiver. Like when you mention top receivers in the game, like Nico is a guy that you're going to have to start mentioning. And to think with him and with Dell and Stephon Diggs, 5 for 69, he actually ran one in two. Like what I've seen from the Houston Texans, 3-1 through 4 games. And then last but certainly not least, this kid, I can't say enough nice things about. I was very high on him coming out of the draft. Is a big reason why I had the Washington Commanders making the playoffs, and that's Jaden Daniels. 4 incompletions today, 26 of 30. It wasn't like he threw the ball 16 times. He threw the ball 30 times and completed 26 of them for 233. Threw a touchdown, did throw a pick, but 8 carries for 47 yards and a touchdown. He commands the huddle. He's wise beyond his years. And that is a big win for the Commanders. They go to Arizona and they win 42-14. Solid across the board. Touchdowns in all 4 quarters. And that had to feel good for Cliff Kingsbury. They ran him out of town there in Arizona. He comes back as the OC with a rookie quarterback against Kyler Murray, and they take them to the woodshed. So shout out to Jaden Daniels, number 5 on my list, but probably should be number 1. How good has that kid been? Offensive player of the year. I think he might have that already locked up. All right, finally, pains me to say this, but I think Erik Ten Hag's time with Manchester United might be coming to a close. And listening to the Gary Neville podcast earlier, Ineos, the folks that took over, they bought a minority share from the Glazers to be a part of this just kind of reclamation project with Man U. They cannot be happy with what they've seen so far this year. Erik Ten Hag was on the hot seat. They win the FA Cup over Man City. They had some conversations with some other coaches, and ultimately they decided to keep him on. People just wanted to see some consistency. Give me a style of play. It's kind of like the conversation that we had last night about USF. It's not always that you lose, it's how you lose. And today, right off the bat, awful. Mickey Van de Ven, center back, takes the ball and runs almost the entire length of the field, all the way to the end line, passes it across the front of goal. Brennan Johnson comes in, and Man U's down before everybody even gets into their seats. Embarrassing performance. Bruno Fernandes goes off. I know people are going to say, oh, it shouldn't have been a red card. If you are going to be that sloppy and your feet are going to be that high, your cleats are going to be that high where you're going to make contact with any player. I mean, you got to be more control. I don't want to hear any excuses. Bruno has not played well. I love Bruno Fernandes. I love the heart he plays with. I love the durability. I love that he cares as much as he cares. But hell, man, he's played like crap so far this season. That's not good enough. No fight, no energy. I mean, they had fight when they went down 2-0 with 10 men in the second half for 20 minutes, and then they ended up giving up another goal after the 90th minute. Man, you can't keep recycling these managers, but man, you look at some of these other guys, Ange Postecoglou on the other side with Tottenham, Arne Slot, what he's doing in Liverpool. How come some of these Enzo Maresca with Chelsea? How come all these other managers? It doesn't take long for you to at least see what they're trying to do. Maybe they don't win right off the bat, but you at least have an idea. Like, okay, that's what their goal is. Erik Ten Hag, 2 years in, we still don't really know what the hell he's doing. Yeah, he can get some results. He can win trophies. I understand that, but Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said something a couple years ago that's very important. Sometimes cup competitions can mask what is really going on with your club. You need to be fighting for the league title. That shows consistency. That shows you where you're really at. The week in, week out performances. It's not good enough. It's tough to watch, man. Constantly coming up short, constantly giving up these goals. You tied FC 20 during the week in Europa League action. Are you serious? Come on, man. 1-1. And the way that guy scored the goal, too, he went right through the defense like a hot knife through butter, very similar to what we saw from Van de Ven today. You have all of these ex-Man U players, Gary Neville, Tim Howard, Rio Ferdinand. They don't even know what they're seeing. All these players that come in, that Erik Ten Hag brings in, that are decent players, it's almost like they drink poison as soon as they step onto the pitch at Old Trafford, and they forget about how good they are. Kobe Mano has not played good. Alejandro Garnacho hasn't played great outside of that one game. He had a couple of goals. Inconsistent performances up and down the lineup. And eventually, it's hard to say that. It's hard to think that Erik Ten Hag's not going to lose his job. I know you can't keep firing guys, but you got to do something, right? This isn't their guy. They didn't hire him. But it's a shame that this crest right here, it has been mocked for the last 10 years. And shout out to Ramuda here. I love Solskjaer, but no way, can't have him back as a manager unless he's in the senior role upstairs. I'm with you. For all these people out there that are saying, oh, we got to get Ollie back and this and that. Listen, they lost the last 5 games that Ollie was the skipper. And there was a couple of things that I loved about him is that he brought the professionalism back. He made sure that the guys were all buttoned up and wearing the crest and dressing nice and appropriate. And there was some, he beat Pep a bunch of times too, which was amazing. I love that he instilled that love for the game and the love for the club. But he's no master tactician either. I mean, he's still very young in his managerial kind of journey. Maybe one day he'll come back. But as of right now, he's no better option than Erik Ten Hag. I don't know where they go from here. And people are going to say Gareth Southgate or maybe Eddie Howe if things don't work out for Newcastle. Who knows? The only thing I do know is that I'm sick and tired of watching this shit. I plan my weekends around Manchester United, man. If it's a 7:30 game on a Saturday, it is a pain in the ass after I'm doing one of these shows or I'm out working late Friday night and then I get up and I watch these putrid performances. Do they care? Yeah, but their actions don't really tell us that, does it? Finish, score, care. Sad, man, because there's some talent there. And I don't think Erik Ten Hag's a bad manager, but I don't know what it is. If there's like a curse on the team, I don't know. But the only reason why I laugh because I don't want to cry about this team, but I spent a lot of my time watching these guys, following these guys, and they just continuously put up these terrible, underwhelming results. Something has got to give because it's pissing me off. I got to be very unbiased and very kind of objective when it comes to sports because I cover all these teams and I keep a little bit of a step back when it comes to my rooting interests for the 4 major sports in this country. But the one team that I openly root for and I care and I'm a freaking fan of and spend my money to travel halfway around the world to go watch them play is Manchester United. And if they don't win, they don't win. If they're not as good as City and Arsenal and Liverpool, hey, if they're building towards something, I get it. But some of these performances, it makes you not even want to follow the team anymore. I'll never be that guy, but I can see like you can see why people get that pissed. It's not good enough. It is not good enough, and it needs to change. I don't know if that means Ten Hag is out, but something's got to give. All right, that wraps it up for me. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Follow me everywhere on social media. Please check me out on YouTube. Check out all my videos. Like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Remuda, I appreciate you for tuning in. Ten Hag needs to go. Time is up. That may well be the case. All right, tomorrow night, Monday Night Football, Monday Night Raw. I'll have everything for you right here on Recher Reacts. Make sure you tune in tomorrow at noon on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620. Jay and Zach are back, and we will be talking about that Buccaneers win over the Eagles. Everybody, I appreciate you for tuning in, and go get some rest. We'll see you next time right here on Recher Reacts.